What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 21 of the Steam Deck Podcast, Flip Screen Games weekly video game podcast, all about Valve's hot new handheld, the Steam Deck. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my partner in Steam Deck-related activity, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Steve. How you doing this week?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to be back. I'm off from work. I miss doing the shows with you. I'm vibing today. You know, we got our Game of the Year episode recorded yesterday. First episode of Nintendo
no
Noise the day
spoilers.
before that. We're back in swing.
Yes, if you want to listen to what our games of the year were, most of mine were played on my Steam Deck. I think probably 100% of them I played on my Steam Deck, at least at some point in some capacity. I streamed a bunch from Xboxes and PlayStations over to my Steam Deck as well. So I got a good amount of Steam Deck entries on there.
You did, for sure.
Yeah,
So
some
go
of
check
my
it out.
favorite games as well. Yeah.
That's a good
It was a
conversation.
good episode. It was a very long one. So if you want to skip through, you can do. But
No, you can't. You have to listen to the whole thing. Yeah, I think it's the longest episode we've done of any of our shows.
Yeah, I think you might be right. It was a long one, but it was good conversation. Obviously, the three of us had a lot to say, and I was surprised by how different our lists were. Like the top three were kind of similar for all of us. I think, at least there were some similarities across. The three of us having similar games in there. I know your top two games were kind of different. At least the second one was for you.
Yeah.
But I tried to sneak some games that didn't even come out in 2022 on the list. You'll have to listen to find out what they were.
You're an absolute monster. Every year we set rules and you just break them. Like you agree to the rules and then you're like, okay, my first entry totally breaks this rule, but I'm doing it anyway.
Yeah, because I think for me it was in the spirit that came out in 2022. But anyway, that's a different podcast. If you want to go listen to that,
Go check it out.
Head over to our YouTube channel or search for the Flip Screen Games podcast.
Yeah, definitely go give it a listen if you haven't already. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about Steam Deck today, and we've got some fun things on the docket. Namely, the Steam Awards 2022 is one of the things we'll be talking about today, where Valve basically creates a list of all of, it's based on Steam stats, right? And like what the games that people were actually playing versus, critical reception, all that kind of stuff.
And you can nominate them, I believe. I believe you can say you could go on to each of the pages and nominate the games for specific categories as well.
Yeah, and it's
I think
it's
I've
just
one.
limited to games that came out on Steam that year, not necessarily games that came out originally on Steam. So it's like you'll see some appearances from.
Is that right though? I don't know if that is right.
is
'cause
right.
Cyberpunk's on the list.
That's my point. That game didn't
Cyberpunk
come
came
out
out.
this year.
Yeah, but it didn't come to Steam for the first time this year.
That's my.
But
That's,
that's been out for a very long time.
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it doesn't have to be games that came out on Steam this year. So like you'll see
Oh, I
appearances
thought you
from.
said they were games that came out. They came to Steam this year, but
Oh,
didn't
I'm sorry.
necessarily release this year.
I don't think that's what I said, but if I did, I misspoke. What I'm saying is that there are appearances from games that are not games that came out this year, right? Like Cyberpunk, like Spider-Man Miles Morales, which was new to Steam, but it's not a new game, right? So it's an interesting list, and we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty of that. But before we get into that, we do have a start screen to jump into today. This one comes from none other than the man that gave you life, Andy Rads, who wrote in and said, Santa brought me a Steam Deck. Having watched the podcast, I thought this would be, at last, be a handheld device I would like. And so far, I have not been disappointed. I thought I would be playing it mainly on my TV, but that has not been the case. Although I also had the dock for Christmas. Ask Steve about what happened when we tried to set it up. Pause. What happened when you tried to set it up?
So Dad was not having a good time, and I thought it was like his TV that was incompatible with it. But we would plug it in, and it would just be like a black screen. We tried like four different HDMI ports on the screen. We tried different cables
soft
that he
cycle it?
had lying around. We soft cycled it. I switched over to the beta branch. I tried everything I could think of initially, and then I did some research, and people were like, "Oh no, plug the dock in, but then don't plug the HDMI cable in, and then plug the HDMI cable in after you've docked the Steam Deck." Did nothing.
Yeah, I was going
I
to say
ended up
that was one of the
having-
ones I warned you about, I think, in our initial review. Was like I had to do that.
Yeah, I ended up having to switch over to the safe mode that they added in shortly after the Steam Deck dock released. So you can put it into a safety mode where it like limits the resolution to 720p. And then after that, you can up the resolution. So I think it's one of two things. Either Dad's cables were old and they were sub HDMI 2.0 cables, so they couldn't support the resolution that the Steam Deck natively was outputting, or the Steam Deck was outputting a 16 by 10 image, which I think is probably what the case was, and my dad's TV will refuse to accept a 16 by 10
I
and
see.
only wants a 16 by 9. But if you have that issue, go into the settings, set it to safety mode, under display, and then you can plug it in and you can bump the resolution back up.
They
I
got to
think
get that figured out. It's
they
like,
do, yeah, because it was an infuriating experience. You know, if I hadn't have been there, my dad probably would have just been like, "It's broken,"
yeah, I had the
and
same. I had the
asked
same.
my sister to return it.
I had the same experience like a week or so ago. I was hanging out with my friends Em and Laura, and they have a Steam Deck at their place, and um they were like, oh yeah, like we were like they'd been using the dock because they were playing, I think Melee and like a couple other like old school games up on the TV, and it just stopped working. And like I was over there for like dinner or something, and they were like, "Oh yeah, would you mind taking a look at it? Like we're not sure what's going on. We tried like the soft cycling thing you told us about. We tried unplugging everything. Like I don't know what's going on." And I was like, "All right." And I troubleshot it for like 20 minutes, and like I got it to work, but like I'm not even quite sure why what I did worked. You know, like it's like I
What did
went.
you end up doing?
So I soft cycled it. I unplugged everything. I plugged everything back in. I restarted the Steam Deck. I applied a software update to the Steam Deck because they had like the firmware was out of date. I tried. I think the thing that finally worked was after I installed the update, I reset it. I put it in desktop mode and unplugged everything, plugged it all back in, and then reset the Steam Deck, and then it worked.
Well, I could have tried desktop mode. That might have done it as well. But the safety mode, once that did the trick, it's
Because
fine. I don't know even if my dad's been into desktop mode at this point. He's very much using it how I think a lot of people use
yeah,
the Steam Deck, which is just his,
it's a
oh,
console.
it's a handheld console. And I'm just buying games from Steam and I'm playing them.
The reason I tried handheld mode was because their TV was a Samsung, right? And on Samsungs, when you plug in any device with an HDMI, it has this like startup. I don't know what to call it, but like basically a menu comes up and it's like, what is this device, right? And it'll either auto detect like certain things like Xbox or Switch. It'll be like, oh, this is an Xbox, cool, plugged in. But for a PC, it has a PC setting. So when you connect your Steam Deck, you need to have it connected with the PC setting, and like that can get in the way of things like gaming mode and stuff like that. So I was like, well, if I put it in desktop mode, maybe I'll be able to just connect it and trick it into thinking it's a computer, and then I can kind of like back, like force my, okay, you recognize it now, like display the image, right? And like I said, I don't really know which of the things I did because I tried like 4 or 5 different things. And finally, it was like, all right, I'm going to try one more time and I'm going to do it this way and see if it works. And then it worked. I was like, okay.
That was actually one thing I forgot about. I ended up having to change Dad's settings on his TV. He's got like it's a Sony TV but runs on Android TV, so we had to like go into the settings and we had to set it on gaming mode, which turns all of the like pre-processing shit off. But then from there, you then have to change the black level to full from auto or low, or limited, whatever it was called. So otherwise, it was way too dark. You couldn't see anything on the screen. It was terrible. But he's been having a good time with it since, I think. But it sounds like he's not even been using the dock, so that was a real
Yeah, so he goes on to say,
useful hour.
I have mainly been playing handheld. So it sounds like your work was time well spent, Steve. Sat on my sofa playing games is really great. I watched a YouTube video where somebody compared the Steam Deck to a book. You take it to work and read it on the way. You read it at lunch during work. Use the Steam Deck in the same way. Pick it up when time allows. Play it on your TV when you have screen time. It has changed the way I now look at handheld gaming. This is full-on PC gaming in my hands, and I love it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that's how I saw the Switch as well. I think the Switch changed it for me a lot. I used to take that to work. I would play Breath of the Wild, just like sit on the couch in the office and play that on my lunch break. Probably play a little bit too long on my lunch break.
I
And
used to
then,
do that
but the
with my
Steam,
3DS. I would like take it
Yeah,
with me, and like I would like eat lunch, and then I'd go sit by the water and like play Animal Crossing, and it's
it's
nice.
nice. But the Steam Deck obviously takes it to the next level. And I know the games that Dad's playing probably are games that he wouldn't play anywhere else. He's been playing stuff like House Flipper, Teardown. He picked up the Stanley Parable. I know he's been playing through that. So
Oh
like he's
man,
picked up games that he probably wouldn't have played anywhere else, and it's nice that he can just play them handheld. And I asked him, because I saw this question come in, and I was like, why have you not been playing it docked? Like I thought that was the plan, that you thought you were just gonna dock this thing and play it on the TV. And one of the reasons is because my mum's always using the TV. So like, he's got a share. It's a similar setup as me
yeah,
and my partner, where they're using the TV. So when they are, I can use the Steam Deck, and it's nice. Like, I also just prefer handheld gaming in general. I very much like being able to take it on the go, or take it to bed, or just lie down on the couch and be comfortable while I've got something else on in the background. It's perfect for those TV games that we always talk about. And I think something like a Teardown or a House Flipper is the perfect TV game. You can have something you've seen before on in the background. Like for me, it's usually like I've got The Office on in the background or something, and I'm just playing through something that doesn't really require a lot of attention. Vampire Survivors was a perfect TV game
yeah, of
last year.
course. Yeah, yeah, and I mean, for me, like the it's interesting because I guess I've always had this kind of relationship with games, right? Like, because like I was an only child and I wasn't athletic, right? And like I didn't start playing music until I was a little older. So like when I was young, like gaming was really my only big hobby. So like I had every console, from the generation that I came up with. Well, I guess not quite, but you know what I mean, right? Like I had a PlayStation and an N64, and then like the next generation I had a GameCube, a PS2, and an Xbox, right? So like I've always been more platform agnostic than not, and I think like especially now, right, where I feel like we have a lot of really good options between the Xbox, the PS5, the Switch, the Steam Deck, and whatever you're doing if you've got a gaming PC. And I think it comes down to me now. The way I think about games is like I want to have platforms that meet my needs, right? And like I want to be able to have variety and ability to, like, if there's a game that comes out, I want to play it where I want to play it, right? Because there are
Hmm.
certain games, like I think of something like Hades, right, which like came to Xbox and PlayStation 5, but like I don't really want to play that game on a big screen, like, or like a Stardew Valley, right? I don't really want to play that game on a big screen. Like there are certain games that I think are more at home on handheld consoles than on a home console, and vice versa, right? Where like there are a lot of experiences that like I just really don't want to play on a tiny screen where like it's going to impact the draw distance and things like that. I don't think that trade-off is always worth it, but like when it is, it's so attractive, right? And I think that's like why people really gravitated
Yeah,
towards the Switch, is like having that ability to have your cake and eat it too, you know?
I think you can have your cake and eat it too with the Steam Deck, though, when it comes to those types of games. Because especially if you have a PC in your house like you do, and you've bought it on Steam, when you're at home, and I mean that's the main place I play my Steam Deck. I don't really take it out all that much with me. I want to talk about taking it to my parents over the Christmas break, and that was nice. But for the most part, I play it at home, and I can just stream games from other devices within my house, and that gives you longer battery life. You get more power from whatever device is playing on. And I have the bonus of I subscribe to Game Pass, and Game Pass doesn't natively
Yeah.
support the Steam Deck at the moment, but I can play those games that are on Game Pass either from my Xbox or from my PC, and I can just stream them over the network to my Steam Deck, and it works great.
Yeah, and it's not to say that it's bad. It's just different, right? And it's like they're concessions that I'm not willing to make for certain kinds of games. Like something like I was really excited by the idea of like Spider-Man coming to Steam Deck, but I ended up playing it on PS5 again because I'm just like, oh, this game's like so at home on the PlayStation 5, and like
Yeah, that's fair.
I like the experience of playing it at 60 FPS in 4K, and having like the ability to really drink in all the work that was done to make that game as
I
much
think
of a
I think
visual
that game
splendor as it is.
that game would be fine at 40 hertz and 720p on a device where the screen
Yeah,
is
and that's the
it's
thing
like
is,
8 inches.
I think it's a totally valid way to play the game as much as just like it's just not I wasn't as like drawn to it. And I think the thing that's going to be interesting for me is over the break, right? I was playing a bunch of like games that were game of the year contenders and I wanted to see them represented. So I didn't get around to this yet, but one of our Patreon producers, Mr. Zaid Ida, actually bought me a copy of Sonic Frontiers on Steam, which he was very kind to do. So I'm interested because I think that's going to be the first new AAA. I'll use that a little. Maybe it's more double A, right? But
I think it's AAA.
It's a AAA.
I would pretty say AAA.
No shade. I don't want the Sonic fans coming for me. Okay, we're just playing around. We're just playing around, everybody.
Well,
I like
it's
Sonic.
quadruple A. It's
Quadruple A.
on
It's the
another
best game.
level.
It's game of the year. Okay, of course. But I am interested because it'll be the first AAA game that I'm playing on the Steam Deck that's new, right? That isn't a game I played somewhere else, and then I'm like comparing it the whole time and being like, right, like,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm interested to see how that works out for me.
The games work great on Steam Deck, at least I've found. We were looking through the list of games that we played, and we might touch on it later in the show. But I played 32 hours of Days Gone on my Steam Deck last year.
That's crazy.
It's about halfway through the game. It's a very long game.
Can you cycle your library by hours?
If you go to your Steam profile online, you definitely can. Let me see.
Okay.
What's your profile's Loud Pete, right?
Yes. Loud Space Pete.
Space?
Yeah, there's no underscore.
Oh, I don't know what your actual username is then. You'll have to.
Oh wait, you know what? I think it's ADJLAD.
No, it's Loud underscore Pete.
Oh, okay.
You'll have to have a look, but yeah. Oh no, all recently played, all games, and then playtime. So what game do you think is your most played game of all time on Steam?
Oh,
Of all time.
Of all time is an interesting question.
Wow, there's some crazy games on this list.
Yeah. Anything good?
Like you spent 30 hours on PUBG.
Yeah, I had a fucking moment with PUBG, man. I was a PUBG kid for a little bit. I would have guessed it was more. I would have guessed it was more than 30 hours. That seems low.
Well, I mean, frankly, I can't believe the number. I don't necessarily know if I do believe the number. I guess maybe it's
for my top game. You don't believe the number? You're saying
it could be 2 or 3 playthroughs. I guess maybe you played it with multiple people or streamed it or something.
What the fuck
I don't know.
is it? Is it like Undertale?
It's 163 hours is how much it is.
And it's a single player game. It's a game with a story?
Yeah.
Is it like Life is Strange or something?
It's Life is Strange. Yeah.
Okay. I must have like left it on or something, right?
That's what I mean. Like, that's a long time. I feel like you just left that on and it was just ticking the time over.
How long is the game? Yeah, because like 163 hours is really long. Like that must be. Let me see. How long to beat?
But for Multiverses made it into your top 4, 29 hours on Multiverses, which I guess was last year.
That's pretty good. Yeah. And it's funny. That's only half the time I played it. I played it on Xbox. You played it on
you played it on.
That's pretty good for. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So the completionist run of Life is Strange takes 18 and a half hours. So I definitely left it on at some point because I beat it more than once, but like not.
But even though still that would be like 60 hours, not 160.
Because I think I beat it twice, and then I also did a Let's Play series with a friend where he played through the entire thing. So it must
that's
be
probably sat there for a while.
Yeah, we must have had it open at one point while we were like sitting waiting to get started or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's
my stats are totally skewed because I shared my partner just used my account for a while. We've now set them up in actual accounts to stop it fucking my stats up. But the number one played game on my account with 537 hours is Flashing Lights. Number 2 is American Truck Simulator. Number 3 is Euro Truck Simulator. And number 4 is Farming Simulator. I have played none of those games.
So
I
how
wish
far
I
do you have
could
to go
remove
before you
them.
find a game that you played?
Number 5, Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. I played 64 hours of that game. And that's only on Steam. I also played that game multiple times on Xbox. I played it on 360, Xbox One, and Series X. I've played that game a lot. I like that game.
Yeah, it's funny. I imagine my Steam list is really weird because like I had such a small window where I was like actively playing things on PC. So there's like a lot of like stuff I probably played for like Let's Plays or shit like that. But then it is like I had a moment where I was like getting into PC gaming and playing indie games when they would come to PC. So like I can think of plenty of games I played on PC, but like there's not a lot of them, and like a lot of them are shorter games. So there's probably like a ton of games where it's like 10 hours, 5 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours. Like
You've got Kentucky Route Zero, Tropico 4, Undertale, Duck Game, Night in the Woods is some of the older titles you've got. Doki Doki Literature Club, Dream Daddy.
God, I love Doki Doki Literature Club. Yeah, it's like that was that era. It was like 2016 to 2018, I think, or somewhere around there is like where I was playing a lot. And I was really into Overwatch at that time. I was playing a lot of League of Legends, so like a lot of stuff that's not on Steam but was on PC. So I probably put like 60 to 80 or more hours into Overwatch that year.
Yeah, which obviously wouldn't be on Steam because it's a Battle.net
Right.
game.
But yeah, like I
think
remember
that was one of the things that I remember from my list, right? From the Steam replay that's now broken.
I can't believe it's broken. It's only the first week of January. I can't look now. I tried to log in for today, and it's like, you have no data. And it's like, what do you mean I have no data?
And it was just like, yeah, but there's so many games that aren't on Steam that I played. Like, there's so many non-Steam games, like all of the EmuDeck stuff. I downloaded a bunch from the Epic Games Store. Like, I picked up Death Stranding for free from the Epic Games Store over Christmas. It was their like giveaway game on like Christmas Eve or something.
Nice.
So I went and grabbed that. So there's a lot that are non-Steam games that that don't show up in the list.
So we can't get the hard numbers, but we can still like take a look. Like what were the games that you remember spending a lot of time with on Steam Deck?
So they're on the list. Number 1 and number 2. Number 1 was Vampire Survivors, 42 hours with Vampire Survivors, and Days Gone was number 2. That was 32 hours. But then I played a bunch of Hitman. I bought Hitman. That was 11.5 hours. 5 Dates, which made my game of the year list. 9.5 hours on. I started Papers, Please again. Stacklands is on here. Age of Empires 2. Oh, I completed Resident Evil 3 remake. I bought that on Steam Deck. That was 6.8 hours.
My Steam Deck's not turned on.
Rollerdrome, that was 6 hours. Played some Jackbox. So there was the Stray that I played through.
I forgot you played that here. Yeah.
Yeah, that was 3 hours. That can't be right. 3 hours? Is that all?
That doesn't sound right. Isn't that game like at least 7? Like,
yeah, I know. I don't know. That stat definitely seems incorrect. Yeah, that's not right. All Sisters have only played 2 hours of Cult of the Lamb, which is also not correct.
So it's debunked.
Yeah, some of them are not accurate, but for the most part, like I think Vampire Survivors is definitely correct. Days Gone is definitely correct. They were my number 1 and number 2 most played games probably on the Steam Deck, aside from all the stuff I was streaming through Chiaki and through Greenlight. I completed Horizon Forbidden West. Half of that game was played on Steam Deck. And so there's quite a lot. What about you? What do you remember playing?
I think for me, Cult of the Lamb is probably number 1. If I had to guess.
Yep, you played 20 hours of Cult of the Lamb.
That sounds about right. Yeah, I put a lot of time into that.
But it's not. Multiversus is higher. You played 30
Oh,
hours.
sure. Yes, okay. So Multiversus then. That makes sense. Yeah, those are the 2 games I remember spending the most time with on Steam Deck. You know, like if you asked me to think about like what I played on it most, I think those would definitely be 1 and 2. I think probably a little behind that is probably Tony Hawk's Underground, because I did beat the entirety of that game, which is not super long, but I mean,
Persona 5 Royal must be up there as well. That's 13.8 hours you've played of that so far on Steam Deck.
yeah, I was gonna say that's definitely got to be another one.
Vampire Survivors, I'm surprised you played 11.3 hours of that one.
Yeah, I did pretty good. Like I know I wasn't necessarily as enamored with it as you were, but like I put some time into it. I put some time into it.
Roller Drome, I know we both played that on Steam Deck. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, I know you played a bunch of that as well
Yeah.
on Steam Deck. You played that while you were away.
Yeah, and then like I spent a lot of time with retro games earlier in the year too, like with EmuDeck. Like I started a bunch of old games and I beat a couple of them. Like I rebeat Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland. I rebeat Super Mario World. I kicked on Digimon. What is it? Digimon World, I think is on the PS1.
Yeah. Like I know anything about Digimon. It's like that is even more niche than Pokemon, and I don't know anything about Pokemon.
Is that right? It's Digimon World, right? Yeah, Digimon World. Digimon World on the PS1, which I talked about a little bit earlier on in the year on Flip Screen Games. I think it might have been on this show, but it was like a game I really loved as a kid, and it was like very obtuse and kind of hard, and I didn't really understand it, and I got further in my few weeks of playing now than I ever did as a kid, and I played this game a lot as a kid, and I realized how much time I spent doing like basically nothing in it, So yeah, that was like a fun walk down memory lane. I ended up spending a lot more time with it than I thought I would, and I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna beat this. Like, I'm gonna, and then I remembered like why I stopped playing it, and it's because you'll get all this progress, and then your Digimon dies, and you have to like re-raise it up again, and it's like it's very like
Pain.
yeah, and it was like, oh shoot, okay, I have to start over. And then I was raising a second Digimon, and I messed up, and I got a shitty one, and I was like, all right, like I was like, all right, I'm good. But hey, I got pretty far. in it. Maybe I'll pick it back up one day. And then I also kicked on a couple like not endless games, but like arcadey style old school games that are less about like progression. Like I was playing like Pokemon Pinball from the Game Boy Color, and Pokemon Puzzle Challenge, which was also a Game Boy Color game, quite a bit early on when I wanted something that was kind of like jump in, jump out, before Marvel Snap like devoured all of my my bandwidth for games like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and then
I played a
Persona,
bunch of.
I'm a decent chunk of the way into that. We spent 13 hours just getting for episode 1, and I think I've put in another 4 or so hours since then for episode 2 for the book club. So, and it's great.
Yeah,
I mean, playing that game on
anything.
that game is so at home on Steam Deck. It's out of this world.
Oh yeah, I've been playing entirely on Steam Deck. I'm just streaming it from Xbox because I'm cheap and I don't want to buy the game again.
Yeah.
Because I've already bought it once on PlayStation, and now I'm playing it on Game Pass. It made no sense for me to buy it again.
I bought it because I wanted to start it on my honeymoon, and I was like, well, all right, well, there you go. I'll own it on Steam then.
Yeah, makes sense. I played a bunch of emulator games as well. I think probably the two I spent most time with were Simpsons Hit and Run and Crazy Taxi. I played a lot of Crazy Taxi. Loved that game.
I
And I
started
also played
Simpsons
some
Hit and
Mario
Run
Party.
because like earlier this year I had done the like I was watching The Simpsons for the first time, and like I got very far into it and then kind of fell off. So I think I should circle back to that, and I got to finish my
Yeah, there's a
rewatch
lot
and
of
then play the game.
references that you'll understand now.
Yeah. Even just in like the little bit I played, I was like, okay. I speak Simpsons now, Steamed
it's a great
hams.
game.
Yes, I get it.
Yeah, I need to set up the PC version because I've been emulating the GameCube version, but you can find a PC version out there. It's difficult to find, but it is around.
Isn't it
if
on
you
Steam?
Look in the right places. No, it's not. It's nowhere to be found unless you look places you probably shouldn't. But you can find it, and it is playable on Steam Deck, and there are a lot of mods that you can install. So I'm looking forward to trying that one out and giving that game
Make a tutorial for me.
Yeah, because you definitely watched the last few tutorials I put out. Have you even set up any of the stuff?
Look, I watched them. Did I do the things to make them work? No, but I watched the videos. I know how they'd work. But hey, I'm on vacation now. I can do it now,
You should. You should give it a go because I know you were talking about when you were playing Spider-Man, like, oh, it'd be great to be able to play in bed, or
Yeah.
and I was just like, fucking do it then, like set it up.
You did it. You did the work
and
for
actually
me.
play it.
Yeah, I'll have to get that set up. Cause yeah, I mean, like it would have been great with Xbox too. Like while I was playing Pentiment,
That was absolutely at home
on Steam Deck. Yeah, because it was like I was playing it on Xbox. It's on Game Pass. It was a fine game to play on the TV. But there would be nights where I'd be like, like I'm kind of ready to go to bed, but I'm not quite ready to stop playing, And then I'd be like, all right, I guess I'll play longer than I should, and rather than get in bed,
Yeah, that's the only time I was playing Citizen Sleeper was on handheld on the Steam Deck because it's very very text heavy. It doesn't have any voice dialogue, so it's like before the final cut of Disco Elysium came out, so it's just all reading.
Yeah.
And I don't mind a game like that, it's fine. It's difficult for me to fucking see the screen when it's 6 foot across the room.
That reminds me of like I said, I've been playing Pentiment the last couple of weeks, and I went on the subreddit for it because I was trying to find a spoiler-free answer to a question I had, right? Because I was like, okay, like, is this what's going on? Like, I was trying. It's hard for me to talk about it without spoiling something, so I won't. But the important part is, I ended up on the subreddit for a minute, and there was one of the top results was this meme that somebody made where it was like Pentiment fans be like, this gameplay is fire, and it was just a dude sitting there reading a book. That really got me because like I'll tell you what, man, like you want to talk about quiet games, like that game is so quiet. There's no dialogue.
There's no music.
There's no music. Like the sound effects are like very limited. So much of it is just like
lots of scrolling.
Or like wind blowing, or somebody hitting a hammer or whatever. But it's just ambient sound, and I'm like, damn, dude, it's so relaxing. And it was funny because there was a moment where there was a tune playing, and I paused the game because I wanted to look something up, so I muted it, and then I started playing again. And Sarah's like, "You still have it muted," and I was like, "Oh yeah, I forgot. This game's so quiet. Like I didn't even notice the sound was off." So before we get into the Steam Awards of it all, what are like the games that you find yourself most looking forward to playing on Steam Deck this year?
It's tough because I know I really want to play just everything there. So I'm probably going to play a lot of Starfield there. I can see myself playing a bunch of that because even though I'm probably going to be streaming that from Xbox and I want to play a chunk of it on TV as well. Being able to explore all those worlds, and I know in Bethesda games there's a lot of just running around and exploration. I feel like that's going to be interesting. Vampire Survivors, the Poncle, the developers behind it, have also outlined a bit of a plan and a roadmap for 2023. So there's a bunch more content coming to that game. Whether that has longevity for me, I don't know. I can see something else kind of capturing my imagination this year, but most of the games that made my Game of the Year list this year were games that were like announced and released within the same year. I was quite surprised at how many of those games were on there, and a majority of them were indies, and they kind of just came out of nowhere. Like Return to Monkey Island, for example. I'd like to see more games like that, and I can see myself just picking things up and experimenting and just trying out everything really, because I think the beauty of the Steam Deck is just being able to play anything on it, whether that is the big AAA games or the small indie titles. But I do think the smaller games, they for me, those are the ones that are like big sprawling exploration games. I know it's both at two ends of the spectrum. For me, they're the games that fit best on Steam Deck because I want to be able to run around and explore and not really interact with dialogue all that much, but then I also want to be able to play those smaller titles like something like a Cult of the Lamb or a Vampire Survivors there.
Yeah, that's the thing that makes it hard for me. I think we talked about this in our last episode of last year, and like just trying to think about like what games I'm excited for on Steam. I don't really think of Steam as a platform like that yet. I think because I'm so used to not playing things on PC. When a game comes out and I'm excited about it, the question I immediately Google is like, okay, how is it on Steam Deck? Right? Like I wanted to play Marvel Midnight Suns there, but it had some trouble with the 2K launcher.
I think they fixed that now.
Right.
Yeah, I think we spoke about that, right?
We did, and that was the whole reason that I was like, right, I'll steer clear of it on that platform because of this specific thing, right? And cool, it's resolved now. It works there. Maybe that's where I'll grab it now. But
do you use the wish list all that much? Because I'm looking through my wish list now, and there's 2 games on here that I'd forgotten about. Ooblets, which just has a page on Steam and is probably coming to Steam at some point, and Baldur's Gate 3, as well as Diablo 4. But whether that will be compatible with Steam Deck at launch or not, I don't know.
Right? I think Baldur's Gate is probably the one that I have the biggest shot of getting into because it's like I'm not aware if it's coming to it's probably coming to other consoles and stuff, but I imagine it'll be on PC first
at some point. Yeah, I mean, it could well be on Xbox in early access for a while. They did that with Divinity, so they could potentially do the same thing with Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, so it's like, when I'm looking forward to a lot of the games I'm excited for this year, it's like it is like the bigger stuff, right? Because like I feel like a lot of the hot indies of the year, like you don't really know what they are until they come out and like they make.
I mean, there's one we know about, right?
Which?
Hades 2. It's coming to early access this year, true. So I'm probably going to pick that one up straight away because I loved Hades so much. I'm just like,
I don't think I'll do that though, because I'm like, I don't want to play a game in early access and get burnt out on it while it's half baked. Like I'll wait until it's done.
No, yeah.
You know, that's just like a me thing. But like, I think that's why when I'm looking forward, like that's where I end up landing is like, yeah, actually, I don't know what the games I'm going to play on Steam Deck are yet. I think they'll reveal themselves to me over time. You know, I think like that's weirdly part of the fun of the platform, is like it's just like, oh yeah, like what is the next thing I'm gonna play on Steam Deck? And I know one thing for sure is Persona 5. I'm gonna play a lot of Persona 5 Royal. I'm looking forward to playing a lot more Persona 5 Royal, and I'm looking forward to trying Sonic. So we'll see how those two get along, and anything else I play, I think will be a surprise.
You think you'll pick up any of the big Sony games that are coming, like Returnal or I know you said you played Spider-Man over on PS5. I think Returnal could possibly be there. It's more like arcadey.
I might play Spider-Man again. That might happen. You never know.
Oh my god!
I've platinumed that game.
Of course it will. You playing old games instead of new ones.
I platinumed it twice.
Should continue.
So
we better do it for a third time.
That's what I'm saying.
Achievements over on Steam Deck.
Right?
That makes sense.
Come on. So maybe I'll do that.
I've also got 10 Dates, which is coming out on Valentine's Day. So nice. I'm looking forward to my date with 10 dates on Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I thought about some of those games. Like I thought about picking up Uncharted when it was on sale. I don't know. It's like there are a bunch of old games I want to replay, and I'm wondering if I might leverage the Steam Deck to do some of that this year. Like I bought Red Dead Redemption 2 again. I've wanted to play the Outer Worlds again since I played it the first time and like just roll a very different character and like behave differently. So there's things like that.
Where if we get the second one this year, or do they delay that till next year? Because
I think it got delayed.
Starfield.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming out this year anymore. Hell, I mean, Starfield's apparently imminent, right? Like it's supposed to be the first half of this year, so it's like we're closer to it than not at this point.
Yeah, which I think is why they announced the increase in prices. And I'm curious as to whether that translates over to the PC pricing as well as the Xbox pricing, because obviously PlayStation's has not.
Yeah.
They've not got a $70 game on Steam yet, and I don't know if they ever will. I'd be interested to see if Microsoft kind of break water there and just like, yep, let's do it.
You'd think that Returnal would have been the first, to be.
Yeah, they've not got pricing out on that one yet, but Last of Us Part 2, I would have expected them to have price parity, but obviously they haven't.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. It's a weird one, but I don't know. It's like I guess we'll see, right? Like it's gonna happen eventually. I think the idea that like PC is gonna stay away from $70 games forever is naive. It's gonna come for PC gaming eventually.
Yeah, but I do think that the sales on PC are just like so frequent and so good.
Totally offsets it. Like Steam as a platform is so there's always a sale coming up, right? There's like a big sale like every quarter, basically. So you always have an opportunity to get recent games at a good deal.
Yeah, I was talking to someone who messaged me out of the blue on Twitter yesterday. I won't say the name because I've not asked permission to share the DMs, but he is getting into gaming for really the
Bill
first time
Spencer.
since playing Myst. That was the last time he played
What?
video games, was
What
Myst.
did a 70-year-old man reach
He
out and
said
message
he,
you?
he used to play games with his son, who's now 32. So probably around my dad's age, I would say. But he said he wants to get into games and read an article in The Guardian about The Long Dark, and then wanted to get into games. So asked me for some
What?
recommendations.
How? How did this? Okay, you don't have to. I don't want to out this person, right? Like we're not doxing them. Is this a person you already knew, or is this just like
Yeah,
a? Okay, all right. So it's like a friend. It's like it's an acquaintance.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm just like,
Mutual
why did this
follow on
random
Twitter.
man just reach out to you? What's the context here? Like,
No, yeah, mutual follow. Knows me more for like tech stuff and development side of things rather than gaming. But obviously knows that I do gaming podcasts and things. So asked me. But he's set up. He downloaded Steam. He set up Steam Link on his Apple TV and bought a controller for that. So like he's all set up, and he was just like he made the point of just being like some of the games were just ridiculously cheap in the sale, and like that's why he picked up so many of them. It was just like, yeah, sure, let's go crazy, and spend like $50 and buy like 15 games. It's insane.
that in and of itself is a game, right? Is like the let me
Yeah,
add everything I
set
want to my
yourself a
cart and see
budget.
how much it is, and then get it
Yeah, I
down to a
remember doing
reasonable
that with
number,
you
and then
once.
never play any of these games.
Did you pick anything up in the sale? I did not. I decided that I already had so many games I was playing through anyway, including like Persona and Monkey Island and Signalis, that I was just like, it's irresponsible of me to buy more games when I
Yeah.
know there's going to be a spring sale in March.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I bought a bunch of games during the holiday sale or
Autumn sale.
the fall one, the fall whatever.
Yeah.
There's a sale every freaking month on Steam now, and I bought a bunch of games then and didn't play like any of them. So I'm like, I'm not gonna buy more games. I have like 4 or 5 games installed on my Steam Deck ready to go that I haven't even touched, and then I have I've been in the middle of a lot of stuff too, right? Like it's like I've definitely not had a shortage of games to play. So I finally think I'm gonna buy another game because I have been wanting to play Marvel Midnight Suns, like I was talking about, and I
I really want to play that too.
I was looking on like just other, like where is it? Where does it run the best? Like, where is it the most affordable? It's on sale on Xbox right now for like another 10 days, and it's like the regular version, right? Like the regular $70 version is like $40 or $43 or something like that. It's like a really good deal for a game that came out a couple weeks ago. So I'm like, I think I might jump on it now while it's affordable,
Yeah, it makes sense too. Like if you know you want to do it.
And it's a good excuse for me to set up the streaming with my Xbox because I want to play it on Steam Deck. But
Yes, then I would say give that a go and then see how it plays.
in the worst case scenario, I've got it on Xbox, where it
It's
apparently
currently on
runs pretty
sale
well.
for 41% off on Green Man Gaming.
Ooh. Yeah,
It's
good deal.
£29.47. Don't know how much that is in dollars, but I would imagine like $40.
Yeah, probably about that. It's pretty good. All right, so before we talk about the Steam Awards, let's give you that reminder that this episode, the Steam Deck Podcast, is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of January. For the very first time, they are Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Matthew MQC, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Thank you for sticking with us for another year and for tuning into this week's episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. If you want to go and become a Patreon supporter, if you want to find our sister shows, if you want to find wherever we are, all over the web, making cool video game content for you, head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links to all the places that you can get involved. However you choose, we thank you for joining. So let's get into it. Steam Awards 2022, Steve. We have a number of categories here. Let's see. How many exactly do we have here? There are 11 categories that you've highlighted here. How do we want to go about it? Reverse order?
Yeah, whichever way. I don't really mind.
All right.
I would imagine a lot of people have already seen these anyway.
Yeah, so we'll go through them real quick, and then you had the idea that it would be fun for us to kind of make our own winners for these categories. So I think we could do a little bit of that too. So best game on the go, the winner was Death Stranding Director's Cut. The best sit back and relax game was Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Outstanding story-rich game went to God of War. Best soundtrack went to Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Best game that you suck at went to Elden Ring. Most innovative gameplay went to Stray. Outstanding visual style went to Spider-Man Miles Morales. Better with Friends went to Raft. Labor of Love went to Cyberpunk 2077. VR Game of the Year went to Hitman 3. And Game of the Year went to Elden Ring.
Well, I mean, the game of the year went to the right game. We know that now, certain.
Yeah, I mean that was on Steam. That was probably the best game that came out this year. Definitely not the game of the year.
Not even the games that came out this year though. Like it could have been any game, couldn't it?
Have to be on Steam though.
I guess game of the year probably. I think you couldn't have voted for say Cyberpunk 2077 and said that was game of the year 2022. I don't think that would have landed with people.
Everyone's like, you know what? This was the year. This is the year of Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I was surprised by VR Game of the Year Hitman 3, but I guess Boneworks came out like a while ago. And Hitman 3 came to Steam for the first time this year in VR, whereas it was exclusive to PSVR for a year. So it's nice to see that one. I'd love to play Hitman 3 in VR.
That seems like that would be fun in VR. Yeah.
Labor of Love? Is that like a game that was shit and then they like chipped away at it and that's why it's good now? Is that what that means?
I don't know what that category is supposed to mean, but that's my understanding on it, is that the Labor of Love was fixing this busted game and then people played it again. But like,
I mean, then it makes sense that it's that one.
PC gamers will really bend over backwards to just like argue that Cyberpunk is flawless, huh?
So on the I'm on the Steam website and it says Labor of Love. This game has been out for a while. The team is well past the debut of their creative baby, but being the good parents they are, these devs continue to nurture and support their creation. This game to this day is still getting new content after all these years. Other options were Dota 2, Project Zomboid, No Man's Sky, or Deep Rock Galactic. I think Cyberpunk deserved the win there. They got a huge update this year. And obviously they've continued to add content. They're adding free DLC, that kind of stuff. So
it would have been so funny if Game of the Year went to the original God of War. That would have been incredible.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't go to Stray.
I don't think there was even another game in the Game of the Year category that was even close. Like it's like Dying Light 2, Elden Ring, Stray, God of War, and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Like,
I mean, Elden Ring was like the #1 best-selling thing on Steam, not even like game. Like it beat out the Steam Deck for a good number of months. It wasn't even weeks. Like this game was top of the charts for a long time. People were very excited about Elden Ring, and I think still are. I can't wait to get back to it.
I think it's. I mean, I got to be honest with you. I think it's a little bit generous to give the Labor of Love award to Cyberpunk. Like looking at it, like not that I can say that one of these other games necessarily deserves it more because I don't play them. But like being the good parents they are, they continue to nurture and support their creation. It's like they put the game out to
the
die.
Witcher 3.
Like, come on,
if you gave it to what about The Witcher 3?
Yeah,
like,
give it to The Witcher 3, which just got a huge content update and isn't. I don't know. That's a choice. Here. Sorry.
I think it was always seemed to be pretty good on PC though. That's something you have to remember as well.
Yeah, you're right.
These are awards for PC games, and they're not awards for a terrible console experience. Oh, Bone Lab was nominated for VR Game of the Year.
Yeah, for VR it was Bone Lab, Hitman 3, Green Hell, Among Us VR, and Inside the
Backrooms. I love the Backrooms games. They're so fun.
So with Better with Friends, it ended up going to Raft, which is that game where you're on a raft and you like try to survive like shark attacks and stuff. And
I'd
you know,
like to try that. I think I would have probably said Multiverses deserved it
damn
for
right
that
it
one.
did. Damn right.
People were playing that for a long time as well,
And it's an
and it feels
inherently like a two, like the main game mode is 2-player.
yeah.
Outstanding visual style went to Miles Morales. Yeah, that's cool.
Okay.
It's a great game. Beautiful.
Yeah. But like, is it a distinctive look and feel that suffuses an entire game? I don't think so.
I mean, based on what?
Like, that's what it says. Visual style doesn't have to aspire to be real world graphical fidelity. Describes a distinctive look and feel. I don't think Spider-Man really has a distinctive look and feel. I feel like it looks like an open world, high fidelity, aspiring for the real world graphical fidelity, which is not
Yeah,
what
I don't agree with that.
this category necessarily says. I think Cult of the Lamb has a really distinctive look and feel.
It does.
That
I would entertain
visual
that.
style to that one.
I would definitely entertain that, but I'm inherently against that opinion. And I really am bothered by that like so many people try to act like indie games are inherently more artistically valid because they're not a AAA game that aspires to have like a more realistic look. Like Spider-Man does have an outstanding visual style. You ever watch the sun go down in that game? It's beautiful. You know, like it's like there's an intense amount of artistry applied to like the design of like the custom suits and the way that they react to light and the way that you know, like, that, like, just, I mean, honestly, I think you could leave it at that. Like, the lighting in those games alone is so special and dynamic. And, like, I don't know, man. Like, there are moments in that game that I think are just so gorgeous. And, like, I understand the idea of wanting to give something like Cult of the Lamb or even Scorn, right? Because it is, like.
I would have even said Stray deserved to be in this category more so than Kena.
I'd say that. Yeah, I think Stray definitely deserves to be nominated. You know, I don't know that I would necessarily pick Miles Morales out of this group, but I don't hate seeing it get the win because it's like I think those games are gorgeous.
Yeah, it's also weird that they gave it to Spider-Man Miles Morales and not just Spider-Man. Like both games came to PC for the first time this year, but
yeah,
Spider-Man never got nominated, but Spider-Man Miles Morales did for all of the awards that Spider-Man's up for.
Yeah, it's newer, I guess.
Most innovative gameplay, Stray. Like I don't know.
I saw somebody tweet this with a screenshot, and they were just like, "What are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here, gang?"
I think Neon White did have innovative gameplay, and yeah.
The designers of this game are at the front lines of creative experimentation, bringing fresh perspective and brain-breaking surprises. This game delighted, inspired, and entertained with newness never played before.
I mean, come on, it's a 3D platformer.
But like it's not. Like I think if you're looking at the letter of the law, right? Like in the way that you just were trying to for graphics of like let's read what this actually says, right? Of like creative experimentation. I think that's fair to say that this game is creatively experiments, right? Like it's a platformer, but it's also not. Like it's not strictly a 3D platformer because it's not skill based, like right? Like and that's what most platformers are about like
No, I don't think they are anymore. Like Mario hasn't been, Kirby wasn't.
Mario is absolutely skill based.
Massively skill based. It's zero stakes though. Like it takes you straight back to like where you were straight after. There's no like lives or anything anymore like they used to.
I don't think that matters though, because like there are like challenges and things within it that you can't do if you're not good, right? Particularly like the moon levels and everything at the end of the game are like very difficult. And there are a lot of the moons like in the overworld and stuff that you can only get if you can do, you know, creative platforming, right? And like that's a factor at play. Whereas like Stray is it's more exploratory, right? Like it's more about like traversal in a 3D space, right? Like it which sounds a lot like platforming. I understand. But like that's more what it's about. It's more about like creating a map, right? Of like a space of like I'm in this section and I can explore the ground level, I can explore this level, I can explore the top level. I have to find where all the different secrets connect and like it's far more about like exploration and discovery than it is about platforming, right? Like,
Hmm.
I feel like that's more a means to an end of what the actual gameplay is, you know?
Yeah, I still don't massively think it's brain-breaking surprises. I don't think there was anything like that in
It
there.
does bring a fresh perspective, though. And it definitely delighted,
Yeah,
inspired, and entertained with newness.
yeah, sure. I mean, fine. If we want to give it to, if they want to give it to Stray, fine. I don't. That was not nowhere near any of our Game of the Year lists. Um,
You gave it an honorable mention.
yeah, because it deserves an honorable mention because it was a decent game. I
It's
just
charming.
don't understand. I don't understand. This is one game I just do not understand why everyone raves so much about it, other than the fact that it's a cute ginger cat.
People like cats. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
I love cats.
Best game you suck at. It was
It
GTFO,
deserved to go
Victoria
to Elden
3,
Ring.
Total War, Warhammer 3, Elden Ring, and FIFA 23.
Yeah, it should have gone to Elden Ring. That game's difficult.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. It's like such
Best
a
soundtrack didn't go to Persona. Are you joking?
yeah,
Come
right?
on.
Like, come on.
That
Again,
soundtrack is absolutely slaps. I have that on vinyl. I listen to that all the time. It's so good.
and like, don't get me wrong though. Like Final Fantasy VII's soundtrack also absolutely slaps, and like it has, Final Fantasy VII, the original, right? Like has some of the most iconic pieces of video game music ever created. And they've been
Mhm.
reimagined by a full orchestra for this game, and like I get it, like I get this as a choice, but yeah, I'm with you. I'd give it up for Royal. And Persona 5 is just that soundtrack is out of this world.
Oh, so good.
Outstanding story-rich game went to God of War. The other options were Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, Spider-Man Remastered, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, and Plague Tale Requiem. So this was Spider-Man, not Miles. That's interesting.
Okay, yeah, fine. I mean,
Fair.
I've not really played any of these other than Uncharted. I like the Uncharted games, but I
I'd
don't
give it
know
to
the
God of
stories
War.
in the other ones. Yeah, I figured you would, especially with the sequel coming out this year. It was fresh
Also,
on
though,
everyone's minds.
Stanley Parable on this list, great choice because that does have an outstanding story. And it's experimental and weird, and it's weird. It's a weird game. It's a great game. 2022 sit back and relax game went to Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. The other games were Power Wash Simulator, Disney Dreamlight Valley, Dwarf Romantic, and Slime Rancher 2. Kind of surprised Power Washer didn't win this one, honestly.
I loved Power Simulator. Great game. I also think Disney's Animal Crossing, also a good game. Probably could have
Did you play that?
punched the victory here. I played a little bit of it. It's Animal Crossing with Disney characters. You would have a good time with it, I think.
I started Power Wash Simulator last night,
So
and
good.
I was like, I don't like. I get it, but also I got bored really quickly.
It's chores. It's one of those games where you're doing chores, but also there's like that addiction thing of I want to get better at this and I want to get the better equipment and I want to be
Yeah,
able to do this quicker and I want to be able to complete things. It's a fun game. I
I
had a
watched
good time
Sarah
with
play for a
Power
while.
Simulator.
I started it and then passed the controller, and I was like, oh. And she was like, I love this. This is the best game ever made. Like I'm into
Yeah,
this.
it's
And I
really
was
good.
like, okay,
Really good game.
it's all you then. I can barely focus on real chores. I'm like, I'm sitting there doing it. I'm like, I should go power wash my backyard. Like, what am I doing?
Well, your power washing in real life is even more fun.
It
'Cause
is
it's so satisfying to
deeply
see the
satisfying.
grime just go away. It's great.
I used to work at a ice cream shop, and every summer at the end of the year, we would have to do like a big cleanup before everybody would go off
Mm.
for the off season. And every year that I worked there, I called dibs on the power washer like right away. It's like, all right, who wants to do what? I'm like, power wash. I want a power wash, please. And just
It's so satisfying.
and it was this super, super long stretch of sidewalk that went from the actual street like to the back because they had like a little fudge shop in the back that people would go to after they came out. So it was like a long ass stretch of concrete that people were walking on every day. So it was filthy by the end of the summer. And it was like, oh, so satisfying to sit there and clean the whole thing, you know? All right. So best game on the go went to probably like the only game on this list that I don't think makes sense to have won it.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
It
I
went
would
to
have given it to Vampire Survivors or Marvel Snap, but Marvel Snap, I wouldn't have played it on a Steam device. It would have been on a mobile phone.
Yeah. Which is, I think, the only reason that I wouldn't give it to Marvel Snap. So it's like Vampire Survivor seems like the obvious choice.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But yeah, who knows? Maybe people just like running around delivering shit.
I guess. I don't know. Like, that's fine. It just seems like a weird choice. Because every other game in this category is like a arcadey, like quick, type. And it's like, this is like giant, like 40+ hour single player experience.
But it could be that it could fit the description. This game was so good, you wanted to take it everywhere, so you did. And luckily, everything that made it endlessly playable at your desk got even better on the go. Like, I wouldn't have played any of the other games on my desk to begin with, but I would have played Death Stranding at a PC and then been like, oh man, this would be so much better if I was led on the couch playing it on my Steam Deck.
I guess, yeah. I think it's just funny because like the other games are all games that I'm like, yeah, no, these are games I would pretty much exclusively play. But whatever. Cool to see. How many is like? I can't believe all these Sony games came to Steam this year. I thought that was I remember Death Stranding coming like last year.
Maybe it did.
Maybe.
This is the director's cut. Maybe the director's cut came this year.
I got no
March 2022 was the director's cut. I don't know when the previous version came.
Well, either way. What do you think in terms of going through these real quick? Did you have any picks for the categories that would be like different?
No,
I think most of them are okay.
Really, yeah. Most of them seem fine.
Except for the ones that we like called out where I'm like, yeah, I'd probably give Persona best soundtrack. I'd probably
like I would have put Stray in the art direction, things like that. But for the most part, yeah, I think made
it's a pretty
sense.
good list.
And, yeah.
Represents, I think there was a lot of
Steam players did a good job nominating games.
A lot of good games out on Steam this year for sure.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, all right. We'll wrap it up there for the day. Thank you guys for joining us here on another episode of the Steam Deck Podcast. If you want to write in and be a part of the show, if you want to show your support, if you want to write in and let us know what your favorite games on the Steam Deck were in 2022 or the games that you want to play on Steam Deck in 2023, remember, flipscreen.games is the website where you can find links to all the places we are. With the crew, I've been Pete, he's been Steve. We'll see you next week for another Steam Deck Podcast. Take it easy, everybody.